Hey, Donna. She's not feeling good. She went with me to the doctor today. And then we got all Sunday, I went home, and I've been in bed ever since.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and everybody else can.
Okay, hey guys. I've been better. Y'all take care of yourself, okay?
You take care of your stuff, all right?
I will, Miss Tracy. Love ya.
I love you too.
Probably not pancreatitis. Could be pancreatitis. Who knows? I mean, so she's gonna talk to the doctor and get back with me the next couple of days, maybe. That's all I got.
I know I had it's been several years ago, probably about 5 or 10 years ago. I had to go have I had a fractured heel and I couldn't do the stress test on the treadmill, so they gave me the chemical one.
Hey.
To this day, I've never heard of it. I thought, well, everything must have been all right. Then they would have certainly called to see if I was dead or anything.
Well, I took a half day off work for this.
Not to find out nothing.
I have an appointment to see him in January. And they were supposed to call me in a couple of days. She said, well, what do you want out of this? And I said, I want to know if this is not going to happen again. That was the most unspeakable agony I've been in years. And
Yes, it related. So you don't know what it's related to. It might be related to your gallbladder.
well, they said no.
They said no.
They look at it. Okay, so, who knows? All right, we're all here, and the clock is messed up. Well, no, it's only 6:54.
Oh, no.
How'd that happen? We're all here early. And then Don is here early on the line. I guess Joe and Kevin might show up, but they might not. All right, let's see, Barry, this word prayer.
Sure. Dear Lord, we thank you for this opportunity. Let's come here and worship this week. We ask you to bless everybody here, bless the congregation. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. All right. What time do you gotta be at work, Barry? A minute?
Now, hopefully when I get there.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm always on time because everybody else that drags in late.
Well, last week you were tired and
Oh, they just, every last weekend was supposed to be my weekend off.
oh, okay.
Really?
Okay, so last week you were tired and you were leaving and you said you're on your way to work.
Yeah, I go into the lab, I'm usually there like a quarter of, but everybody else comes in like in the morning, like 7:30.
Which hospital do you work at?
I work at rehab center,
Oh, okay.
fixing the jump ship. They're all mad at me.
They say that way to me too.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is, it's like I'm always there. I call them paper nurses. They have to come out of the offices and fill in.
Mm-hmm.
And the DON, she's been filling in.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, your job's not to fill in. Your subordinate's supposed to come in and fill in. She said, yeah, but they've got it backwards here. You know, they're like telling the boss, oh, I'm not coming to work tomorrow night. I wish I could do that.
Sick and tired of it.
Well, I usually say that, but I've been out so much here lately with this.
I mean, I get it when you're sick or you're ill, you have a reason to be out, but just,
Well, actually, one of those days last week, I worked completely sick. I mean, I was hurting all day long. All right. He's going to explain the parable of the sower in verse 18 of Matthew 13. And he explains it so well. But honestly, I doubt there really was even a need for him to explain it. It's pretty self-explanatory, but he goes ahead and does it. Listen then to the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is the one sown with seed beside the road. The one sown with seed in rocky places, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy, Yet he has no firm root in himself, but is only temporary, and when affliction or persecution occurs, because of the word, immediately he falls away. And the one sown with seed among the thorns, this is the one who hears the word, and the anxiety of the world and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. But the one sown with seed on the good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit, produces some 100, some 60, and some 30 times as much. Well, to me, the parable was extremely understandable and comprehensible when he told it in the first place. Now he explains it so that each one of them will know it. And you also have to remember, this is the middle of Jesus being very angry at what's going on. Because if you didn't understand, okay, here's my explanation. And if you don't understand that, you had to want to misunderstand it. And this, in turn, happens today. This is not a parable on the carefulness of the seed or on the carefulness of the ground. This is a parable on the carefulness of the sower. You have to, and everybody knows this today, you have to prepare ground if you're going to plant on it. I've only known of one exception. Where was this? In Kansas. Some lady told me in Kansas, all you got to do is throw seeds on the ground and they come up. You're not doing it. That's just natural farmland there. I mean, it just happens. That's not going to happen here.
Not in Georgia.
If you want grass to grow, you've got to, it's going to grow, but you've got to do stuff with it first. Olin taught me this. He would do it in the fall, and it worked every time. This centipede grass that we have, now I don't think anybody else does it this way, but it works. He would get a square of it and put it in a wheelbarrow and go around the yard, and he would take an axe and he would hit the ground with the axe, which I was always told you were never supposed to do. And he would put a sprig of that stuff in there, not much. Some of it was brown. Sometimes it was just brown. He put a sprig in there, and then he would smash it with his foot. And he said, just leave it alone. And you know, the places I remember that he did that to, when the rains in the spring came, that stuff started spreading all over the place. You know, except underneath the oak trees. Something about the pH that the oak leaves is not going to let it come up. But everywhere else, it starts going. And in fact, right out here, which I thought would never grow anything, there's some scrub grass growing. Some of that centipede is slowly making it, you keep it mowed, it slowly makes it. And he sprinkled it many years ago, but now the dirt out here is horrible. That's where they piled everything when they built the social hall, and it's still got a bunch of building material piled in it, but it's working slowly. After all these years, we burnt stuff out there and stuff. But the point I'm making is this. Okay, I'm going to listen to the word haphazardly. Well, that's a hard ground. I dare you to say anything. Or then, well, okay, some of this kind of makes sense. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. And the first sign of failure, or the first sign of not working out, then, oh, that's it, we're done. And then, okay, maybe, but, I've got these bills due, or I've got this to do and that to do, and, this is more important than that. But the one, okay, what does the Bible say? Help me. That's the one that is going to work, that prepares to receive it, that wants to know what it says. I was waiting for the PA today in the waiting room and then back in the back waiting. And I caught up on, I wanted to know what the Rittenhouse trial, how it was going to go. So they had some news stories on that. I first tried CNN, but they had too many commercials. So I just started looking at Smart News. They're a little bit more unbiased anyway about everything. And then I wanted to know, about that censure of a congressman today and what he did and stuff that, maybe, that was wrong if you want to know, but, stuff that I found out about him. That's really all that the church asks of anybody who wants to know what the word says. What does it say? Show me, let me see it, let me read it. What does it say? The only reason I read that Smart News app is to find out what it says. Find out the things that it says. I don't want it to say something that I already need it to say. I don't want it to do that. Now, there are people that would have read that Rittenhouse trial thing and the congressman thing and think this is what I want it to say and then get mad when it didn't say it. I just wanted to see what it said. That's what people need to be doing with the Bible today. That's what people need to be doing with the Word, is just to find out what it says. So often people go to the Bible today against what it says here. They're the hard ground, the rocky ground, the thorny ground. They want it to say what they want it to say. And what does the Apostle Paul say about it in Timothy? They want to have their ears tickled. They want it to say what they want it to say. I don't like it when you say this stuff. I had a parent get mad at me this year. The kids asked about the vaccinations, and I told them my own situation. I don't want to bring anything home to my dad, who's 83. I don't want to bring anything home to Donna, who has immunosuppressive stuff, what's going on to her. So of course I got vaccinated. Well, should we? I said, what do you think? Do you want to bring something home from this germ factory of a school to your parents or your grandparents or your siblings or something like that? I said, yeah, it's a great thing. Well, I don't like needles. I said, well, nobody does. But I can tell you this. For the first time I went to the emergency room this time, they gave me a COVID test. I'd rather take 10 COVID shots than ever take one of those tests again. Now, other people say it didn't affect them this way, but when she got a certain point, that just felt like fire in my nose. I mean, it just felt like it was on fire, and it was hours before I couldn't feel it again. In fact, I can still kind of remember what it feels like when I think about it now. It was just agony. And I don't know, the kids say, this, that, that, but they want the facts to fit what they already want. They don't want to go get a shot.
They wanted you to tell them that they didn't have to take it or not take it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I basically told them is that, it's a bad shot. It kind of hurts because it does. It's kind of thick, but it's a little bit better than death.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what you... So, but if Eric got mad, I'll tell my children about that. I said, no, you won't, sir. This is America. And I can say what I want. You can say what you want to.
Well, that's not exactly true.
I can say
No.
stuff about that now. If a child asks, I can say anything. That's
Well,
my feeling, and I can back it up.
well, you can't just go in and say anything you want, is the point. Not can you back it up or not. You can't say you can't say fire.
Well,
You
no.
can't say things like that are
That's
inflammatory.
what is in protecting speech I can. And the Supreme Court has also ruled that the teacher does not leave their own personal political or religious beliefs at the door, especially a high school teacher. I always tell the kids, don't do it because I think it. Do it because you've asked around several people and weigh what it is.
It's really hard these days to get real information. You can say what you want and what you want to believe, but you can't say the science backs it up, and you can only say Fossey backs it up or somebody
I
else,
just say that it's chance.
You can say what you believe about it.
Yeah, that's what all I do. And in all the time, if I'm ever,
But don't you think if you imply that you're indoctrinating, if you imply that this is the absolute truth,
I imply that it's better, you're better off than not being. And that's what I truly believe.
and I don't.
Uh-huh.
So, it's not like a debate. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I can see the parents' point of view, things that are not proven,
Mhm.
You know, Darwinism,
Mhm.
they want to say that. And some people say it's true. And some
Yeah,
people
and
don't.
falsely so.
Well, but some people do and believe it.
And there's no way to prove or disprove with science. You know, because it's impossible, it takes too long.
Well, I think so too, but the people who believe do think science backs it up. They just
Yeah.
can only go so
But
far.
unfortunately, what is said is science today is not always science.
Yeah,
Um,
but it goes with religion too. You know, that when you start indoctrinating people and leading them certain ways by implication, they're not looking it up themselves, they're listening to what they hear.
and that's the wrong thing to do.
Exactly.
But,
Oh, it's funny, generally, scientists with a group got together and made an artificial moon. And they went to God and said, God, look what we did, we made our artificial moon. I said, okay, do it again, I want to see you duplicate it. Well, one of the scientists reached down and picked up a handful of dirt, God said, oh no, you get your own dirt.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have something to make something.
the thing is, you know, I want to do everything I can to keep people safe. Is that gonna do it? No.
No.
And science says that it's not. It's not 100%. Even the people that are pushing it immensely, they say it doesn't. But I do believe you're better off. And you're closer to that goal. And it seems like results have kind of borne that out to be true in the country today. But be that as it may, this is America. I do have protected speech. But what bothers me more than anything about that is not so much that I have it. It bothers me that our kids today, and I think they've been taught or indoctrinated, that they don't have it. They won't talk. They won't say their opinion. They are waiting, and this kind of goes along with what you're saying, they are waiting for me to give them their opinion.
Exactly.
And I'm not really talking about this because they feel really strongly about this, although I'll be honest with you.
Well, they have political
The
views
reason-
and things like that too.
The reason they feel real strongly on your job, okay, is the main reason. But if I say, why did Rome want this? Why do we want this? What are the, and when I talk current issues, I would have brought up some of the various trials. Why do people want him convicted? Why do people want him acquitted? You know, they hold their pencil in their hand and say, "I'm gonna tell us, I'll write it down." You know, and that's the thing. When I taught literature, it was the same thing. What was the author's purpose? All right, now we don't.
People don't want to be wrong,
People don't want to take a stand
and it's,
one way or the other.
a lot of people get mad, so, you know, most people have adopted the,
Mhm.
I'll stay in the corner.
There's a guy teaching it now that seems to be doing a better job because his kids are discussing it, you know. But he even says you can't get 100% of the kids to discuss it. I mean, they were talking about with the laws in Mississippi and Alabama and stuff going to the Supreme Court, you know, with the abortion rights issue. About half the kids had opinions and wanted to share them, but most of them just didn't want to see anything. It bothers me if you live in this country with all this freedom and we don't use it. You know, and we don't use it.
Well, it's a lot harder nowadays, and I feel for the kids more like you,
Mhm.
that they don't have the opportunity to explore because one person runs everything. One person says what can be done on the news. One person says what Google can put in right or wrong now. You know, I could send my kids to the encyclopedia. I don't even have my encyclopedia anymore.
They're all online.
You know, and the movement and everything. And that wasn't, I wish I had kept it because a lot of things are changing truths. And where do you go? Can you send them to the library? You know, where do you go accept your teachers,
Mhm.
accept church.
Well, it's like you said before, there are people out there that still believe the earth's flat.
We had a teacher, a science teacher, at school like that. I said, "Your kid, where'd you heard this stuff?" You know, and he was teaching the kids that. They would come and tell me that. I said, "No, that's not what it is."
We had a teacher that wanted to know what country Easter was.
What?
What country, they had a map.
Oh,
And
USSR?
yeah,
You-
and was real.
Well, and the thing is, if you want to pull that whole mindset into religion, there are people teaching it that don't really know what it is. How many times have I heard preachers pronounce, like the rich man Lazarus? He didn't have a little ewe lamb, he had a little ewe lamb. And in the end of Daniel, middle of Daniel, when Nebuchadnezzar has the sound of the psaltery and the trigon and stuff, one preacher pronounced it peasel tree. And he
I
thought,
like it.
he thought it was an actual tree. And he told people that the staff that Moses had was from a peasel tree bush. And that's why it was so powerful. And it's, no, a peasel tree, in your words, is a musical instrument. It is not a bush. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I got a question. Is the word truly or thoroughly? Which how to pronounce? Or is it where you're from?
What do you mean? Truly or what?
Truly.
Thoroughly.
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 It's thoroughly, right? I had a preacher didn't like a Bible. He said it was
Through.
because it had the word truly in it. So that condemned the rest of the Bible.
It's thoroughly.
That's what I thought. You were thoroughly washed in the blood. You're
Thoroughly furnished.
furnished. Yeah, this
Yeah,
place
thoroughly
is thoroughly furnished.
Rightly dividing the word truth.
Yeah.
I know, thoroughly furnished
So he pronounced it
for
truly.
every good word. Truly.
No, it's just one of those
Yeah.
things, it's like, I told him, I said, what version you believe in, the King James? I said, do you know why they call it the King James Version? He says, no. I said, because King James paid for it.
Mm-hmm. Already authorized it, but yeah, he ultimately paid for it.
He
as
paid
well.
for it. He hired all the Latin and Greek scholars and Hebrew scholars to write.
Oh, no, he didn't.
He didn't.
He only hired Latin scholars.
But you know what I'm saying? He's the one who was the money behind the throne, so to speak.
Well, the only, most people know this about King James, but the only manuscript that was available in 1611 was the Latin Vulgate.
Yeah.
The
How many
Greek,
people could read Latin?
the
Only Catholics?
church, yeah. And there were no Greek or Hebrew texts. There were no original texts. So the idea of the King James Bible being the oldest makes it the best is not entirely true,
What about the West?
because the newer translations are actually taking advantage of older texts
Yeah.
in Greek and Hebrew.
I thought Mom was the West.
They had a better idea of punctuation also.
Well, it's just like,
You know, Old English punctuation was haphazard at best, but
Well, believe it or not, Greek and Hebrew punctuation
Yes.
is non-existent.
no,
it just runs together.
Yeah, and there's no spaces, and
Yes,
also
the unical-
Hebrew, people say Hebrew has no vowels. That's not possible. Try to string a line of consonants together and say it without a vowel sound. You can't do it. Hebrew does have vowels. They are under the letter where they come instead of beside it. But the Bible is written in what's called unpointed text, which means they don't put the vowels. It's not written. They're there, but they're not written. And there's no spaces, so it takes a pretty stout Hebrew scholar to translate those original manuscripts. But you think that, we've got manuscripts from, 1611. Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are just about at least part of every book of the Bible in the Old Testament, if they have anything to do with the accuracy of the Bible, they were not available until the 1960s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were discovered probably in the 40s.
And reconstructing them was
45.
marvelous. Reconstructing them was marvelous.
Yeah, and
It was
it's-
unbelievable.
But if they have
The
any
process.
merit at all, your versions after 1960 are paying attention to the oldest collection of the scriptures that actually exists. So, and I'm not criticizing the King James. What they did a masterful job.
How many
Yeah,
people
with what they
speaking
had.
Old English?
Well, there's the other thing. What you have in your hands as a King James today is a victim of dozens of revisions since 1611. No one can be, well, that's not right.
Basically, it's Shakespearean.
It is.
Right,
It's
unless you
Elizabethan
read-
English.
Understand Shakespeare.
Shakespeare was written about 20 years after the King James Bible was translated. So it's basically the same language, but we have done a better job in preserving Shakespeare than we have in preserving the King James Bible because, I can read Shakespeare, and I'm not saying, look how good I am, because anybody can. You just have to do it enough and practice it enough, and you can. But authorized English, Elizabethan English, the original language, the King James Bible will still, even there's something, I do you to the wit.
Yeah.
I had the things I had to memorize, the Psalms and
Mhm.
things like that, though, sound so much better in the King James.
There are some passages in the Bible, but my favorite one, coming to me, all you that labor and are heavy laden.
Yeah.
They just don't sound right unless they are read in the King James.
Sometimes I don't even recognize them, but, I wanted my grandkids to memorize.
Mhm.
It don't sound as good in the NIV.
No,
It's more
But-
conversational,
they're a little easier to understand than the NIV. And
better understood.
what I use is the NAS usually, but it's these versions of the Bible. I personally don't believe that any one version of the Bible should be used solely. That several should be compared. Even in sermons, if you'll notice, I'll put some parallel
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes, like, down in the 13th chapter of Matthew, where he, about the parable of the net.
Mhm.
I had, mine's, one version says net, and then another version that I had, I think makes a better picture, he calls it a drag net.
Mhm.
And, so, and then you have to go back.
And then there's what do you say about Jonah? Was it a whale, a fish, or a sea monster? Because really Greek is not, using the word is not all that indicative because it's pretty similar, our same word for all of them. The Greek for fruit of the vine can mean many things. It can mean fermented wine, non-fermented wine, and it can mean jelly, really. But, some things are just common sense. The community is obviously not going to jam,
But then again,
but,
another thing is, I read the book Killing Jesus, and when I read it, it was basically a story. If you want to read it,
whatever.
well, it made the point, it's like a coin, when they went in, like every year you go to Jerusalem to get the sacrificial lamb.
Mhm.
What's the first thing you can't bring into the outer courtyard? Anything with a graven image on it.
Mhm.
I got a gold coin with Caesar's image, and you look at me like, Barry, I really like to help you out here, so I'm gonna sell you these 10 tokens for that $10 bill. I'm like, oh, that's nice of you, but the only trouble is you can only spend the 10 tokens. It's like going to the casino.
Mhm.
You can't spend dollars, you have to go buy chips.
Well, you can now.
Okay, I don't know, I hadn't,
No, table games, no, but.
no, I don't care if you go to, no, I mean, my thing is,
But.
I can
yeah,
understand
you're
why
right.
those people were getting robbed, because it's like, you go in here, I've got real money that's recognized in the Roman Empire from
Mhm,
Rome to the lowest outpost.
mhm.
But I go to the
Money changer.
synagogue, and the money changer says, "Now, you know, it ain't no good here. Your money ain't no good here. I'll trade you 10 tokens for real money." Like, well, we're not gonna just go buy the, no, we don't take those lands.
Mhm,
We got our own here.
mhm.
I mean, it was just a wholesale robbery.
Well, yeah, it was a scam
Yeah,
by
it's
the
like,
Levites.
and God won't bless that land. Well, what's wrong with it? Well, you didn't buy it here in the synagogue.
They've already been pre-approved.
Yeah.
But no spot really.
That's it.
The thing is, well, the other thing about, yeah, you're right, the King James is, it will translate. I don't know why they did this. And there's a couple of things, the objections that I have, and these are the two. Other than that, I really don't think the King James is it. But as long as you understand these two objections, I really don't think there's anything wrong with it. For one thing, it won't say it was Passover time. Which is what it actually says. They will say it was Easter time.
King James?
In King James,
It did in one of the latest revisions, I don't know if it still does. And then the other thing that all of the other versions have copied that I very much disagree with doing was the word baptize and baptism. Because when it was translated, the word baptize is not an English word. The Authorized Version translators invented it.
Was it
They
Baptista?
transliterated the Greek word. See, the Greek word is baptizo.
Right, means to completely submerge.
It means to immerse or submerge. There's another word for pouring, dipping, sprinkling, things like that.
Didn't Jesus, when he went to the temple, did they have the little places where they would actually submerge themselves to get the dust off? I mean, it's almost like a common practice.
They did that for
The king-
proselyte, making proselytes.
That's right,
Like,
where you actually,
which is not said about in the law of Moses. I don't know why they did it, but anyhow, the thing was, baptism was around before, but we have to spend so much time saying baptism is to be immersed. Now, there was an attempt in the early part of the 1900s by the Baptist Church. They translated every form of baptism as immerse,
which is correct.
but they quit because John the Baptist became John the Immerser,
well, that's what he was,
and
wasn't
they had written their name out of their Bible. So they quit. They stopped it, but you can actually buy copies of the partially translated, if you can find them. Immerser Bible is what it's called.
he? What,
I mean, but then I got one question. This is probably going to sound a little weird. Why did Jesus get baptized?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was making an example. He didn't
To
have any
fulfill
sins.
prophecy that he would be.
Right. I get all that. So why would you want to change your name? Like one guy said, if it was good enough for Jesus, he said, it's all right for me.
And in Greek, what he did was baptize. But in English, you would not call that. When you're translating from one language to another, you don't invent words. You translate from the original to the new language, the new word for what that is.
well, I've got one version that doesn't use the word baptized at all, it uses immersion.
Mhm. It's a good start, but unfortunately, when people have a good idea, they put several bad ideas with it, along the way. I really kind of was a fan until they finished it of what was called the Cotton Patch version of the Bible. It translated, well, this parable doesn't need to be translated into another time period. Okay, this is pretty obvious. But
This is a pre-industrial time. Everybody's doing home. I mean, not what,
Well,
99% of people are home.
everybody understands what this is.
Right, but you've got a guy who might be a carpenter, but he's watching
say-
his friend who's a wheat farmer.
When we talk about the Good Samaritan, we have got to also discuss the political and ramifications of who a Samaritan is, who a Levite is, who a priest is, and who this guy is, you know. The Cotton Patch version was never meant to be a version of the Bible. It was meant to be kind of a commentary, sort of, by bringing these stories into today's, well, it was the 1960s. And so the guy that was robbed by thieves was a rich Southern planter, you know. And the guy that was,
I hadn't heard that.
well, you know, but if we told the story, it would be like, and then told that story, people would actually, well, not today, because even that Jim Crow era stuff is about over with, and most people understand that are young today. But, you know, and if you were around in the 1960s, you kind of understood, you know, what he was saying about the guy and the Samaritan, the Levite, the priest, you know. I was kind of a fan of that, but then they went over because they changed Peter's name to Rock and, you know, all this stuff. And it went too far. I kind of like the fact that, you know, you could say something, had Jesus told this story today, he might tell it this way in the American South, you know, he might tell it this way. And it kind of shows you the political and socioeconomic ramifications of the Samaritan story. But then they kind of ruined the whole thing by going too far, which it's over with now. You can't even find a copy of the Cotton Patch version of the Bible, but
Well, and will come a time where that's what, like the Greek, we want to hear new stuff. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's right stuff, the ears want to hear.
right, but what's
So
that here?
That's what's gonna happen by all these things, and it's just human nature, sort
But
of.
see, when we tell that story, we still gotta tell people about the political, socioeconomic, and ramifications and the social problems of the story. When we say, but we use it in the way we tell them is, well, it's just like this group that hates this group, and you know, today. So I kind of like the idea at the beginning, but it probably was a bad one anyway because it got taken too far.
You know, how do you get kids, though, how do you direct, because they're in it, you know, we have to pass it down some way,
Yeah, you say.
and we have to direct, and we
Well,
have to do.
You know, part of my class, which now I'm teaching world history, is I try to teach them, the dates and stuff to me are not that important, it's the general time periods. And the people are important in the point that they made a difference in people's lives in those days. And I'm trying to point them to the fact that why these things happen. You know, they were asking me about, which we got way ahead, they were asking me about Hitler the other day. And Hitler. And I said, Hitler's not the villain of the story. I said, I know several Adolf Hitlers today.
Yeah.
I know people today who believe the same way that Hitler believed. I've met them.
He had a fertile field.
The problem was the people that he governed knew what was going on. They knew it was evil, and they remained, for the most part, silent. You see, there's a guy, and I can't remember his name. His name is Edmund Burke. He came up with this, and then many different leaders have said it since. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to remain silent.
But you know what?
And
In
that
Hitler's,
is the truth.
in Hitler's defense, now, let me preface it. He took a bankrupt, broke country,
Mhm.
and within, what, 7, 8 years turned into a superpower in Europe.
He did, but he did it by lying, cheating,
Oh, yeah,
murder.
I'm not saying that his methods were wrong, but I
and
mean,
honestly, by genocide. That's what really put a kickstart in the German economy. The Hitler thing, I'm not scared of because there are racists, isolationists. There are all those people alive today. The
but
most
see what,
powerful thing that's ever been said to me about the book To Kill a Mockingbird is that the villain of the book, Bob Ewell, the poor white trash guy who lived in the dump and
Right.
raped his daughter and attacked her and then blamed it on a black guy.
black guy, yeah.
Scout was, everybody knew, and Scout was upset with her teacher, Mrs. Gilmer, because Mrs. Gilmer had been teaching horrible things about Hitler and the Jews. But she said she overheard her saying to someone else, I hope the blacks know their place now after the verdict that Tom Robinson's been found guilty. And Scout saw this as a huge, big contradiction in this woman that she really respected. And she's right. This kid raised his hand. And I didn't think he was listening at all, ever. Never took a note, never even picked his head off the guy, but he was listening. He said, Dr. Holloway, Bob Ewell, Adolf Hitler, basically the same person, aren't they? I thought to myself, yeah.
Paradoxically.
You're exactly right. It's just that Hitler walked into the right time and said the right things to the right people,
Well,
and had the right backing, and Bob Ewell didn't. He wasn't.
what about, and I'm not trying to get off on a tangent, what about Stalin? He made Hitler look like a water boy.
I know. God, the Berlin Wall fell, and after, the fall of the Soviet Union, we found out that Stalin killed millions more than Hitler.
Yeah, I mean, he wiped out, I have a friend who's Ukrainian, or he's from Ukraine, his mom and dad. He hates Russians, and I never understood why, but after studying a little Ukrainian history,
Genocide.
Starvation, the Russians,
It's happening today in
Yeah.
Ukraine as well, and we just gloss it over because it's not politically advantageous for us.
and I said, I didn't never know that. He said, yeah, when the Germans came into Ukraine, the
Mhm.
Ukrainians like, oh, great, our saviors are here. No, the Germans are just as bad.
Mhm.
But they should, you go back and watch footage
But when they
where
first-
the Ukrainians are throwing flowers at the Germans, like, thank God you're here.
'Cause
The Russians are killing us.
Stalin was murdering. But the thing I'm saying is this, and this is what happened to Jesus, this is what happens to Gandhi, this is what happened to all these folks, is that they tried to do good things, people wiped them out, and Jesus was killed because good men remained silent. They did not speak up. There were guys in that trial of Jesus who believed in him. Nicodemus, Joseph of Arimathea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but don't you think when you're in that kind of, I don't know what kind of society you call it, oligarchy society it was, I knew he had the chief priest, but then again, what'd you say, what is his son or son-in-law,
Caiaphas was his son-in-law.
right,
Yeah.
but
Annas was his.
Annas was really running the show.
Yeah, he always did.
I mean,
And
you
he
might be
was
the
the most evil
president,
man
but,
alive.
yeah, you might be the president, but I'm saying, hey, I think we're gonna do this next week, you're like, oh, okay. And if you wanna keep your position, you're gonna do what I tell you.
I kind of think though that the tide is well turned in today because we try to teach kids to understand the enemy, to not think so badly. And if they're wrong, the opinions, but if you talk to people and more of college age, this is what's being taught. And there's no patriotism in it. There's no empathy in it. It's you deserve
And no compassion.
and no compassion whatsoever. And when you hear people speaking of their neighbor, which this country, we're our neighbor,
Mhm.
that it's just getting washed away by having so much prevalence in we need to understand the enemy.
Mhm.
And nobody's quite so bad. Hitler was bad. He wasn't the sole fault, but he was a bad guy. He was a crazy guy,
But
more than anything else. And you don't put a crazy person
and
in charge of a country.
this is the problem, is that when we see evil, if it doesn't, or we can perceive that it doesn't affect us, then we just leave it alone.
Yeah.
And it's every man for himself, and that's really not the way it's supposed to be. That was not what our forefathers said, and it's not even a Christian attitude.
It's not a Christian attitude more than me. And
Mhm.
And what it is, it's reverting back to a mob mentality.
Yeah.
And a mob mentality doesn't usually have a leader. It has loud people. But a mob mentality is what we have today in America. And they don't have the sympathy for the brother. They don't have a clear vision,
Even their own kind.
a clear vision of right and wrong. And that's what I want my kids and stuff to know is There is a right and wrong, and
And we
you
need
don't
people
need
who
to get
speak up.
sidetracked on some of the issues.
Mhm.
There's a right and wrong, and you need to have empathy. But you play them games and you kill all them people 1,000,000 times.
Mhm.
You don't have that same feeling of killing a person.
Mhm.
And they've never, ever been out in the world. They're so young.
Well, that's true too. In fact, that's what Gestapo officers would say is, the first 100 are difficult, and after several thousand, you don't even notice.
I played the games, and the
Wow.
first one up with
Never
the,
been able to afford to.
well, not those, but some on the
Mhm.
phones, and stuff, and they have the spider killing people and stuff. But I had to turn the sound off because it was like, still gets to me, but they didn't think nothing of,
Right.
because it's a game. They're not taught empathy. And you can give all the knowledge in the world if you lack any kind of character, which is empathy, compassion,
And knows right and wrong.
and yes, of course.
And what
And
we
that
need
takes learning too.
what we
Knowledge of
need
right and wrong, I think, takes
in the
learning.
church and government, and we need people with, even though it's unpopular, or even though it may cost votes, to say this is wrong.
This is wrong.
This is the right thing to do. This is the wrong thing to do.
I made a mistake.
And we need to go back to the way I was taught when I was a little boy. I know it sounds nostalgic, but if it was the right thing to do, that's what you did.
Yes.
And the only reason you did it was because it was the right thing to do.
And
That's what I
sometimes you'll
think,
get flack.
Well, the right
that's what I
thing
think
is-
the Bible means by righteousness.
I do too.
Yeah, the right thing
I do.
isn't always, the easiest thing to do.
Or the
But
most
it's,
popular.
Never the
it's never
popular
popular,
part.
because I know I've had to make some decisions where, that I knew what the right thing was, and thank God, I think I made the right decision by doing it.
Well, and there's a lot of things that thank the good Lord I've worked here and not in some other places, even like Savannah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because I have actually said, I'm not going to do that.
Well,
Because it's
you
wrong.
said you were taught, and that's the
Mhm.
whole point.
But the thing is, all of us were taught that.
Yeah.
You decide what, well, I don't want to say all, but the vast majority of us were told there is a right.
When I
and a
was
wrong.
growing up, it's not so, I don't think now. I see neighbors,
Mhm.
yeah, they do not have that opinion.
Well, the right thing is,
They're kind,
what's
or
in,
they're good,
what's in it for me?
yeah.
What do I get out of it?
And if it is too hard, you don't take the flack, you
I
take the
noticed
easy way
during,
out.
I noticed during the presidential election, and this is the one political thing that I always talk about, but I don't have a solution to it, so I'm not trying to advocate anything. I think it all comes down to a lot of times the healthcare debate that we have in this country. The question that I have about healthcare is this. There are many, probably hundreds of thousands of older people who are on a fixed income, have Medicare, have Social Security, and they are forced many times to make a decision between their prescription medication and food. I want to know what's going to be done about that, but the only thing that I ever hear in this healthcare debate in this country is this, from both sides now, is who's going to pay for what. To me, that's immaterial. I would love to see, and people say, oh, you're advocating. No, I'm not advocating anything except that our old people do not have to make that choice. Thank God my father doesn't, because he prepared. But some people had jobs where they couldn't prepare for that. So what's going to be done about that?
I see your point.
Mhm.
A lot of it comes down to there again. The Bible teaches that we're supposed to take care of our parents.
Right.
And that is just not so.
Mhm.
It's when I was a kid, you would bring it, well, we did bring my grandmother in when it had to be and stuff like that, but we're just not taught that that's an inconvenience. And the government should take care of an issue
Mhm.
instead of us, and if we all took the attitude that I'm gonna do what I need to do, which is the right thing, in my opinion, but, you were raised that way, and I was raised that way, but you don't see old people going into their families, into their households.
Mhm.
They can't spare a room
And mom and
to
dad
bring them in.
both have spent in their healthcare time in rehab, sometimes that was in nursing homes.
Yeah.
You know, because they could provide what we couldn't,
Yeah,
but after they finished, they came home. But I saw so many people that were just parked there, and they
I
were
did too with my.
perfectly healthy people. you know,
But, and they
for
had
their age.
families and stuff, I think it comes back to us and not the government as much as we need to practice the Bible. I need to practice the Bible. I need to do right and wrong. I need to make those hard decisions.
Well, Vicki, there's one thing that they don't believe in, that what it says, as appointed once a man to die, and after that, the judgment. They don't feel like there's gonna be any consequences for a lot of this stuff they're doing.
A lot of people don't think there's a time for a man to die either.
Yeah.
They think they can waylay it.
What you want to say, Barry?
Oh, just about the government, being a friend of mine, he's telling me this is like, he's still fighting the Cold War.
Well, that's the problem, and to me, and I don't mean to be advocating for either side, because I think both sides stinks about the health.
No, but we were got to it, and he said something, he said, you know what Karl Marx said, that God is the opiate for the masses, and I said, no, Karl Marx was totally wrong, and he said, what do you mean, because he's a staunch in comments. I said, he should have said, the government is the opiate for the masses.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't believe in God, or they'll give some lip service. Yeah, I believe there's a higher being. I love my ex-wife's sister was an alcoholic. Have you ever been to one of those open meetings?
Yeah.
I couldn't even breathe. I was probably, me and my ex-wife were the only two non-alcoholics here, because everybody had a cup of coffee and a cigarette,
Mhm.
and I was choking on the smoke, and I
You
was
can't
like,
smoke out of now, but
no, back then it was just like, if they had it in this building, it would be full of smoke.
my point is this.
But instead of saying God, they said, oh, I believe in a higher power.
My point is this, that, and even though this is kind of a political subject, I'm not political about it. I want to know, on the left, they say everybody has to pay. On the right, well, no, on the left, they say the top 1% have to pay. Well, I know as well as everybody else, that if you take away from the top 1%, you're taking away from everybody. And the other side says, if you take it away from everybody, well, if you take it away from everybody, then obviously you're just going to take it away from everybody.
I'm a firm believer of what comes around goes around.
I think we need
And I
to
think,
worry about who needs this medical care.
I think that's gonna be a moot issue pretty soon,
And
because
who's going to pay for it
it ain't gonna matter.
is not the problem. It's that why aren't we as a nation, and when I'm saying as a nation, I'm not saying as a government, I'm saying as a group of people, as a country, why aren't we more compassionate towards those in need? We're not talking to people about a Wassiana taking care of 10 or 15 orphans on $150 a month that we can send them. And I talk to churches about this, they'll say things like, we have to replace our carpet, or repave our parking lot,
I'm not laughing at you, but I mean,
Well, you've been down this road before.
yeah, I've been down this road before. It's like,
You
I hate to say it's like, I've been a nurse for 21 years now, and I'm working now, one of the reasons I want to get out, and we get a lot of drug addicts.
Mhm.
And they said, oh, this poor fella, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at his history and said, drank a pint of liquor every day for 20 years. Yeah. I really feel sorry for him. Somebody put a gun in his head and told him to drink that Mad Dog 2020, and now his brain is just pickled.
Yeah.
And he's in here, and you're trying to rehabilitate him to walk. And all he's talking about is like, how do you get out of here? You can tell him he's getting shakes, and he's getting anxious. Oh, well, the doctor says, well, let's put him on Ativan. Oh, that's great. We're going to trade one drug for another drug. Let me think this through.
I just think that this has gone far enough in our country that we've been worried about who's paying for stuff, when really, we all should be asking to pay for stuff.
Well, here's my point.
Because we are
What all these
a
politicians?
loving people, and what was it that George Bush the first said? A kinder, gentler America.
But what we not pay
Remember?
everybody who's in Congress and senators. He's like, you go up there, it's a good Jewish friend of mine said, and he was very educated as far as the Constitution. He said, the founding fathers were merchants, farmers, businessmen, whatever. He said, they went up there, did their time, and they went back home. Because I got a business to run. I'm going to come up here and what laws do we need to make a better country? They do it. He said, okay, the harvest is getting close. I got to get back. Or my ships, my merchants. They didn't come in here and, like I said, make a career out of it.
And usually the men and this is the way it should supposed to be. After you have already done your life and made your fortune, then you kind of retired and your sons took over your business and it was expected of everyone to devote their time to civil service.
Right.
And that's the reason why, Franklin, Adams, Jefferson, Washington, they were all fairly older men when they, began to take the reins of government.
Well, how many of the founding fathers actually used their money in the Revolution and actually died broke? Because they were not able, oh no, quite a few, if you really look them up.
Yeah.
It's a majority.
Jefferson was penniless.
It's a majority, but they put their money where their mouth was.
Yeah.
And they put their entire being into a better country.
They financed a lot.
Yeah.
Well, as late as Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt left the White House literally penniless. And the reason he did is because the White House needed improvements. And he was required to pay for it. And he did. Out of his own personal check and his own personal funds. So.
Yeah, but now today it's just a business. Like my brother said one time.
See, that's the thing. We've turned into these career politicians who use it as a business, as their profession. We have quit. What's your,
103.
103? In a moment, we'll see 103. And by the way, we can start right here if you want next Wednesday night. If you want to. 103. If for any reason anyone, either listening to us here or over electronic, stands in need of responding, please do so as those and FBC.
I want to be a worker for the Lord. I want to love and trust His holy word. I want to sing and pray and be busy every day in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work and pray, I will work and pray in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray, I will labor every day in the vineyard of the Lord.
Almighty God, we thank you for this day, all many blessings. We ask our only God to be with each and every one of us, help us do those things that are right. You gave me care for us, Father, and please dismiss us from this place, but never from thy presence. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Donna's not feeling well. Please remember her. I'm feeling well. I just don't want to have to feel that way again. There's still kind of work on me.
Did anything come of her visit to Atlanta?
Not some. Yeah, they did. They did this weekend here, the periocentesis, based on that, because she had some fluid in her lungs. But that has caused more pain than it ever has before. So they put that big chest needle in. And they don't want to give her any pain medicine. So it hurts, and it hurts healing.
Yeah.
Because it's a horrible big needle that they do. So remember her. Joe and Ken are on the road. I haven't heard from them. They didn't dial them. I don't know where they are. And Thanksgiving is coming up.
Yeah,
So
it is.
week from tomorrow.
Rapidly coming, the end of the year is rapidly coming.
The one thing that's been said that I want to share at church, because of the pandemic and because of the bottleneck of ships out at sea, this year's this year's Christmas and this year's Thanksgiving, year's holidays are going to be much less because they're going to be much more expensive. So what two of the richest news commentators I've ever met said the other night, I kind of respect it, and I don't like everything they say, but what they did say is, maybe this is what America needs. That we have a traditional Christmas, a traditional Thanksgiving, spend it with family, and let that be the magic thing about the holidays. And I thought, what a wise thing to say.
Yeah.
And get rid of the material stuff.
Did Kim here, she offered that Sunday about if there was any really families in the community that really had a need. Did she get any responses?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Was that something we were gonna do, or
Well, we're gonna
she
do
was
what-
just gonna do it from the
from the
treasury?
congregation, yeah. What we can do, which is, food and perhaps, well, what we have done in the past is provided Christmas gifts for like children at Braintree
Right,
and things like that, but they don't seem to want us to do that anymore. So. Plus, we're having the Thanksgiving appeal at the pretty soon, so we remember that. Be happy with that. In fact, it may be Sunday, and I forgot. But we'll do it late, my apologies. Anything else?
Oh, yeah, I have a request. If you get, I know, I have a request for a sermon series
Oh, gosh.
about hope.
I don't know if I do a series, but I do some.
Like maybe the first of every month, like have one sermon on hope.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Do one on Amos.
Huh?
Do one on Amos.
Amos?
Yeah, I love Amos.
Yeah. He was one of those sent for it and want to go.
Well, no, my favorite thing is when he goes to the high priest, calls him the seer, and said, "Go away, seer. Nobody wants to hear what you got to say." And he said, "My father was not a prophet, nor am I a prophet." He said, "The Lord called me." He said, "I was picking pigs and herding sheep. I'm going to say what I got to say, and guess what's going to happen? I'm going to go back to picking pigs and sheep, and the rest of y'all will be dead." Well, that's put it pretty plainly, talking about somebody getting free speech, and everything he said came true. I think it's just an interesting book.
It is.
I had a terrible time cutting all your stuff off. I don't think we got it all, but.
Actually got off too much last Wednesday, which is fine. I mean,
It was,
well, the heat wouldn't
I know. it
wouldn't
was-
come on because
it
y'all
was
had that off.
different.
I thought we were out of gas.
I guess maybe we need to color code it.
Well, it actually was, and the stickers fell off.
I started to say I didn't see a thing, so. Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Has it? That's how I wanted to start. It was a little.